Hi, everybody. So I'm here with Jason Topensky. Jason, how are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm Teri at Holding Your Space. And we were talking backstage. Sorry, we're running a few minutes late. We had to catch up. It's, all of a sudden, we had a time change. So,
It was time warp.
yeah, major time. Yeah, due to time warp, right?
hmm
The dance. Yeah, there is a lot going on with the time too right now, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, big time. Big time time change. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it is hard. I find things speeding up and then slowing down and then speeding up and then, just amazing.
The speeding up, definitely. I feel like, I guess
Yeah,
I'm the type that likes to be really productive and I like, doing things. And I feel like time is getting faster. So then it's like, I feel like I'm not, I don't know. It's this weird, like, kind of mixture of where did the day go and
right?
what have I been doing all day that
I
yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of an introvert. I mean, I'll go out occasionally, but I'll, at the end of the night, I'm like ready for bed and I'm like, well, what did you even do today?
Yeah.
Like, what was it?
Yeah. It's like, didn't I just get into bed?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
sleeping too much? I don't get it.
exactly. Exactly. It's tough. There's a lot going on with that right now. It's been kind of hard. There are times when I'll shame myself about it. And um, because I didn't get enough done. I'm not I've got this Midwestern, thing going on that you've got to be productive and do all this stuff. And then sometimes if I haven't done everything on my list, or if I haven't even made a list, better yet, and just kind of chillax during the day, I notice that I give myself permission to do that more often now. So
Yeah. It's I haven't even noticed that because I've been noticing the past couple nights, like when I really feel like I have, it's like, but then when I feel like I've done more, it's weird. It's like a internal guilt trip that I wasn't even aware of until now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there has been some shame. Hey, Holly, she says, I need grandchildren. I don't know. My animals are keeping me exhausted. Hey, Kevin. Kevin, the healing medium. Hey, how are you, dear? So say hello to people. Mary, hello. KK, Holly, Bright Shiny Ray, Willow Love, Hypnicity. So glad to see you. Margot, hi. Margot B. And Sonia. Hi, Sonia, honey. How are you? Yeah, so and Bora Bora's here too. And Richie's Reach. Richie was here. I knew there was somebody I wasn't saying hi to. Richie. Richie's doing something interesting on his channel. He's doing 30 days of awareness, I think is what it is, isn't it, Richie? Anyway, you'll let us know. But go ahead and put your thing in here. Hey, Kevin, how are you? The other Kevin. We got both Kevins. Yay. Kevin loving vibrations.
It's a party.
Yeah, it is it's a Kevin party.
That's
Here we go.
awesome, Richie. I wasn't fully aware you moved forward with the YouTube, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, he is. He's doing really well. Yeah, he ponders. I like Richie because he ponders. It's like I like the way he asks questions, and his curiosity is very calm. Because sometimes when I get curious about something, I get a little bit of tension, like I want to know now. But 30 days of celebrating you. Thank you. I knew I wasn't saying it properly. Reliving your proud moments. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really beautiful, Richie. So we were talking backstage about, some of your recent readings and who you've been working with, which is been interesting. Not who, but
Yeah.
the outcome of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, the information that comes through, and there's a part of me that almost feels guilty when I'm in, after the fact. Like, I can't, I'm sure that there's people that would really want this experience, and I don't go setting out to like I don't say I really want to meet this energy or this being today, and it just comes through, and it's things that I necessarily don't even, I don't say I believe in things. It's just like I'm not pulled towards certain ideas and certain concepts, but when they come through talking to me in a QHHG session, it's like, okay, well, I guess I guess it's legitimate. And it's one of them, it was Seraphim that I spoke with.
Wow.
And my knowledge is that they're like considered traditionally the highest of the high angels and six wings, and they have really beautiful singing voices and things like that. I didn't know how like fundamental they are to the construction of the universe. It's really complicated, and I think I have to listen to the session a couple more times to really get the full gist of it. But it has to do with numbers and the 12 by 12 and all that stuff, if you are well versed in like how the universe is and the 144 and everything. But I won't go there. But they were it was interesting in terms of their presence, which is what I was kind of talking about. Because it's kind of when I have sessions with higher selves do have personalities in themselves. Some of them are hysterical and really funny. Some of them are really loud and really mean. Not to me, but just they often, I've been told they come through how a person needs, the only way that they'll listen. So if someone doesn't listen, they talk a lot and they don't really hear what you're saying, their higher self will be very loud and very, I don't want to say obnoxious, but it's like in your face, like get it done type things. And then there's these higher selves that it's almost, they're very robotic and they're very detached from the human experience. And I've always been curious about it. And there seems to be some type of connection between people who are a little bit higher, just generally speaking, in terms of vibration and frequency. They seem to have a little bit more, and I say distant, meaning they don't really care about our day-to-day lives. It's about our spiritual experience and learning and why we're here in the big picture, and not, am I going to get a dog tomorrow type thing.
Yeah.
And the Seraphim were like that. They were it was no nonsense. And the reason they came through is this particular client, and this is the really other cool thing that came through, was she was a being who are among a collective of beings who are responsible for creating and maintaining the veils that humankind wears. It clearly isn't a literal thing, but it's like an energetic net that keeps us from remembering and seeing and everything else. And so she heard this being that was coming through a session had a really rebellious outlook on the Seraphim. Like, she said that they're really mean and she didn't like them, and they made her come here because she was explaining how they just travel around the universe and they have fun, and they're really curious, and they go to other planets and other dimensions, and they're just this carefree type of being, but they had this ability to create these veils. And so it was interesting in that she was talking about it, and I said, so initially it was saying, we create the veils. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, well, we had the abilities to create these energetic veils that humans wear. And I said, oh, really? Is this what we talk about in terms of the veil? And she said, yes. Interesting thing about it was she was saying we are in a time when we need to be taking these things off. And she said it's a lot easier than we've made it out to be. Like, we've made it this complex, you know, we have to meditate and be in this vibration. I mean, it is about vibration, but according to her, the highest vibration is laughter, and that's all we need to do to get rid of this veil. And she said, if you only knew how easy it was for us to take them off, we'd all be doing it. But we've made it overcomplicated it, and also there's that fear aspect that's keeping us, so much of us back. Like, oh my God, what's on the other side? So it was interesting. So these beings, a lot of them are here now because they're helping elevate the vibration, because they have that carefree presence, helping us to do that and helping us lift those veils off. The seraphim are the ones who sent these beings here. They didn't really want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So I eventually asked, I said, you know, can I speak with the seraphim directly? Because I kind of, she was like, they're mean, blah, 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 blah. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, but these are like foundations of the universe. How could they be not good things or beings?
Yeah.
And it was the robotic, you know, this is how it is. They needed to come to this planet to help us. We're not making much progress. Laughter is pretty rare, and so that's one of the reasons why these beings had to come here. And it was just, they didn't want to be limited to physical. They don't prefer to be limited to physical bodies. They rather be flying around the universe.
Yeah, dancing.
So
right.
Interesting.
Wow, that is profound. How amazing. And you know, I can get there like for a split second, I feel like, where I recognize the veil and I recognize that I'm not this story. That this is a story that we've told ourselves, like as far as like seeing the table, your desk in front of you, or your laptop, or I mean, it's all just energy and motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing that I'm a female in this lifetime, and I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or I have to get my car fixed or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's all a story, and it's all constructs, and it's all energy.
Yeah.
And then you have to get your oil changed. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it just, I think we make you know, the overall message, just at least for me, is we make things a lot more complicated and a lot more, I'll never get there, or, you know, only a few people can do that. And
Yeah.
The message was, all you need to do is laugh more and you'll get there. And that's, I mean, when spirit comes through and higher selves come through and spirit guides come through, it's always the simplest answer is what, you know, just love more, smile more.
Yeah, it's so joyful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so profound because there's like, I mean, just the stories that we tell ourselves all the time, you know, that we have to do these things. And if we change our story and we really don't have to, like if you, sometimes I play a lot of games with numbers. No, I don't play Vegas, but I play, like I'll say, okay, I'm going to go look at this website and it's going to have 811 in it or 1111. And now it's like a game because I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do that and I'm going to find these numbers. And it's interesting how we can manifest even the smallest things like that and have fun with it. But wow. So yeah. So what are you doing for fun then? What is your idea? I got some questions about this.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't consider that. I mean, it is someone. You know, the clients who, I mean, while these are really powerful sessions, the clients who, you know, had their lifetimes that they've had on this planet are pretty rough, and so it's not all fun and breakthroughs. There is that really seeing how even, you know, these powerful beings or these beings that have come here to help, they really get stuck in the muck, and they really forget who they are, and they really forget how powerful they are. And it's often those, at least through my experience, and these were those cases where they have a really, really, really traumatic life that they've set up for themselves. And we do make the choices, and it's difficult, you know, especially for oh wow,
Yeah.
there's the 222. If you count the 2024, there's the 2222.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love what I do, and it's like I guess it is fun for me.
You know, when I see you, every time I see you, it's like you're just laughing and joyful with it, whatever you're doing, and I kind of get the feeling that would everything change tomorrow and you won the lottery, you'd still be doing this.
Yeah.
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 I think part of my learning process has been in doing jobs and careers and career switching and going to school and getting degrees and thinking, you know, there's always something better. There has to be something better. Why, you know, people who say that they love what they do, they don't feel like they're going to work every day. I was the person who was like, there has to be something. There has to be that person that sits at the desk next to you that you can't stand. I mean, there has to be something that you don't like about what you do. And I just didn't believe it. And now it's like, now that I've gone through that process, I can really recognize, you know, I don't feel like I'm doing work when I do these types of things. It's just, it's just in my heart. It's not like I'm trying to convince myself I like it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's living in heaven. That's kind of like your calling, right?
Yeah.
Say,
yeah,
you're called to do this.
And I've been told, they said you had to go through all that in order to understand it.
Yeah. Well, you know, on our channel, we call that effing growth opportunities, FGOs. So, and I feel like that's kind of something that I'm really good at. So, or I was. Richie had a good question about this. Are we really complicating things to maintain the veil so that we can stay on the path that we have outlined for ourselves? Interesting.
Richie always has the good questions.
I know. He's good at pondering. He can ponder. I pitter patter. Richie ponder.
It's both. Like, it's not either or, and I think that's one of our human things, is that we have to either be on the other side of the veil and be off track, but life plans now, we're in a time where we're supposed to remember. So whether or not, we could come into this life, and actually now that it's coming to me, I did have a client who, she specifically came into this lifetime wanting to remember who she is so that she could do the work that she came here to do. So there are a lot of beings and energies and things that are on the planet now that came here wanting to remember and not wanting to forget, because they're fully aware of what it means to be a human historically, that we have amnesia. But that type of Earth experience really isn't what we're supposed to be having anymore, and we're supposed to be moving a step beyond. So and it's because we are at a place where we're ready for that, and we're ready to move on, and we're ready to get off the endless cycle of lifetimes. Our awareness is such that we're never given anything we can't handle. So also, when we come into this lifetime, we'll never give ourselves anything we can't handle. Well, sometimes it feels like we can't handle it, but we're just in a different time right now too. I mean, there are those who have they're at a different point in their learning and everything else, and so they might, it might not be about And there are often those people that really don't want anything to do with what we're talking about right now. They're like,
Yeah. They're
like,
caught in
I have
the
to get my
comment.
oil changed. I don't have time for this.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
that's a good question, and it's kind of like the chicken or the egg.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of light workers have a lot of trauma in their background, which really makes you accelerate really quickly towards the veil. Because you're like, well, I can change that story, or you become curious about your story after you've gone through all the healing processes and healing itself. God, there's so many different healing modalities. Once you start healing, you want to give it to people and heal others. So I find that that's a big part of why so many light workers have been through so much trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to help others.
And sometimes I think it's also a matter of when, I feel like we're all overachievers on the spirit side, and we do put too many. I've had it, the metaphor is like we put marbles in a jar, and sometimes it's spilling over, and we still want to come to the earth with all of these marbles in our jar, and our spirit guides are like, whoa, you might want to rethink that. And we're like, oh no, I'll be fine. And then we get here, and it's like, and these are usually the people like, you're trying to tell me I chose this?
Right. Yeah.
Why would I choose this? And it's because you can learn so much. But then you're working at this density and this level that's so heavy that it's so hard to get out of. And so that's the remembering part. Like, they don't want those of us who are here for, doing this type of work, and light workers and everything else, they don't want us to get weighed down and heavy and negative.
And I like that they were talking about our process of getting there, because I feel like there are many that are just picking up a deck of cards, say a tarot reader, and they just know how to do it. Right? We're remembering. So it's again, the veil is thinning, and we're remembering how to read records, or we're remembering how to do things. And it just comes to you quite easily because, number one, you've done it before, but number two, yeah, like you said, the mask is slipping, the veil. Yeah. It's quite interesting. There's also all the trauma that's happened on the planet has kind of accentuated all this, all the chaos, don't you think?
I think that's part of why we're supposed to remember, because doing this work is what Gaia needs for healing. And the laughter and the joy, the highest vibrations, are that which is helping the healing process, and everything that's going on or will be going on in terms of just weather and cleansing. It's like we can't, like, the earth can't move forward without us moving forward, and vice versa. I mean, we are the earth in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's difficult to really.
Well, I think that it's waking up those around us, but I feel like everybody here probably is very sensitive to everything going on. And we were talking about this backstage too, that I feel like we're getting the first wave of energy of the solar flares. We're sensitive to it. We're sensitive to the pain, the injustice. And now it's kind of making us think in different ways and setting us on our path. Yeah, laughter is the best medicine, Linda, for sure. And as that sets us on our way, then we can help others as they come into this. Because I feel like a lot of us right now are finding different ways of doing things. And there's also that we are like having things come in. Like my daughter was just at the Chiefs parade that, very close to the shooting. I mean, that was like wait a minute, I've been through all this stuff. We don't have to do this with my family again, but we are learning a lot from it, and we're learning that this is something that we can get over. And she's been really helpful with her friends that were there with her.
Yeah.
So, and then we were also talking about George, Reverend Saul. So, a dear friend, he's a crystal shaman and a Vedic scholar, and he just passed away. And he passed away in such a way that in Tibetan Buddhism, there's this manner that you could pass away where you kind of walk into your next life in Ananda, a state of bliss and happiness. And those were his last words, I am happy. And he left his body. And they say that when you leave your body in such a state of bliss like this, that when you come back, you don't have the veil. You don't come back into that karmic circle again. You come back in totally transformed or enlightened. So, oh, and my ears just popped saying that. So it's like, yeah, he's going to try to tell me something else.
I guess the interesting thing is I think, because this is just kind of popping in, just like from what I've experienced with clients who go to other lifetimes and other people, other experiences outside of the earth, there is really never a sense of, like, there's always a sense of knowingness in terms of when it's time that your time is done and when your time is over. And it's not like, and it's funny because when asking the questions, it's like, did you have a good life, or, will you miss your family? I don't ask these questions, but it's like the things that we think we might ask in terms of, and everywhere else, it's, it was, I knew it was time to go.
Yeah.
Some beings die, and other beings, they just leave their bodies, or they leave their experience and go back to the light. So that just kind of, that description of just walking out of the body, it seems like that's how we're supposed to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely how we're supposed to do it, I think. Yeah. And they say that's like the number one fear is fear of death. It all kind of correlates to that when we have fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An attachment to the material, or, is someone going to be okay? Or
yeah,
do I have to stay to protect my house? Or it's when we lose ourselves in the lifetime that it seems like death becomes more traumatic. But
yeah. So what does your higher self sound like? Can I ask? Or is it?
They make fun of me.
I love that, Jason. Oh my God. That's perfect.
And, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, they make fun of me. Like when I had my own QHHT session, I had been doing sessions for a while, and I finally, it was just a matter of finding someone who was kind of close to me, that a practitioner that we could switch sessions. And like 3 days before, I actually thought I would be calm. I was pretty nervous going up to the session, and like 3 days before, I woke up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I heard in my head, write your questions now, don't touch them until the session. So I was like, okay, fine. So I wrote down these really basic questions, didn't think about them. Well, I did some touch-ups leading up to it, and they got really complicated. Like, should I write a book? Should it be science fiction? Should it be fiction? Should it be this? Should it be that? And the practitioner that I worked with, she asked the question, and my higher self, they went blah, blah, blah.
I love that.
And that was, and they said, we told him to not touch the questions. He touched the questions. We're not going to answer that question. So,
wow.
Yeah. I have very. It wasn't until someone did a spirit guide reading for me, and they said, "Oh, you can have them back." Did it really become clear? Like, oh, you can have them back. That I kind of have that sense, like I have a really strong higher self spirit team that wants me to lighten up sometimes, I think, and I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, you always seem so joyful. Yeah.
I am. I mean, I am.
Yeah.
I do have this perfectionist side where I worry, and I tend to make my life more complicated than it needs to be sometimes, and I've come a long way, but it's
Good
still
for
work in
you.
progress.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. I pitter patter more than I dilly dally, more than I hold myself to an extreme. I think I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I know it's a
Yeah.
fear of like looking, like a fool or things like that. So it is fear based. Um,
Well, you do it well because look at you. You do.
yeah, I think it's when I'm by myself and I get in my head, and that's what they also say. I think too much, and so it's like when I'm not in that space of thinking too much, I feel like I'm more like my higher self than when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you're just kind of in the flow. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel the same when I'm not thinking so much about the outcome.
Mm.
Then I'm kind of like right where I need to be. Um, yeah. Anyway, there's so many good questions here.
Hmm.
So we'll start getting to some of them, you guys. But let's pull this one out by Richie first. There are a couple of really good ones here. So, is our shift in our energy to one of awakening mirroring the shift of the Earth's energy? So, we are moving together. And when we are done, then, so will the Earth be done shifting?
That's my understanding. There's there's been a lot of ways in which messages come through that essentially the Earth is a mirror of us, and we are a mirror of the Earth in so many ways, and that it's however you want to characterize its experience is our experience, and we are everything. It's just we are connected. So her process of shift and awakening is also ours, and that's why there is so much weird energy going on and things that we haven't done because she was dormant for a really long time, and so we haven't really had this extra appendage.
Yeah.
It's like having a new arm or leg or something, and it's like we're now becoming aware of it. It's like, what's that? What's that feeling? What's that pressure? Where's that coming from? And I think that's why there's such a push now, and just in terms of my experience of us reconnecting and going out into nature and walking barefoot and spending more time, because it will help us align more with what seems to be chaos. So yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Yeah. I feel like so we're such dimensional beings, right? And we could go round and round with this as like circles, right? Vortex of different dimensions that she's already fifth dimension or she's already, 12th dimension. But in some dimension, and so are we. So if there is no time or space, and then you get into the all that, and it's like we could go way out there. But but yeah, I feel like she's really asking us to catch up and get our act together right now too, don't you? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I keep thinking in I've kind of forgotten about this. I had a session a couple months ago where this lady, she went to it was very brief. She went to a lifetime, and she was actually lava,
Cool.
which actually in the bigger scheme of things isn't really like it's possible. Um, and she was describing how it was like this village and all these people were running from her. It was really interesting. And I said, well, why are they running? And she was like, well, I'm lava. The volcano Gaia is releasing this lava. And I said, well, what do you ask lava? So
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yeah. Hot,
But it was this perspective of Gaia it was necessary because humans have done so much, but it wasn't like punishment, and it wasn't
Right.
anger. It wasn't coming from a place of anything besides balance. And so, I was trying to understand her role, because I was like, well, what is this like to be witnessing all these people running, and you're part of the destruction? And she just said, we don't see it that way. It's just part of what needs to happen for balance. So I don't know how I was connected. I think it's just like the things that the earth is going through. We shouldn't look at it as, oh, you've been really bad humans.
Yeah.
That's not how we're supposed to interpret it.
Yeah. And I think we're kind of taught that punishment mentality growing up in the West, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a lot of us are. And then we think that karma is a punishment, and it's so not. It's just a circle of expression. And once we kind of detach from that in the veil, it really changes things.
Mm-hmm.
Lori's asking, I keep wondering if so many have been hearing the message of being neutral, embrace neutrality. And listening, it seems more of us would laugh more if we detach more from the outcomes. What do you think?
That's the message I've been getting. It's like it's not a matter of taking sides, but seeing the two sides and being an observer. Which is difficult when there's such brutality going on. It's difficult to from the spirit perspective, that's where we're supposed to be. From the human perspective, it's difficult to stay completely objective especially when it's, for example, your daughter nearly being shot during the parade. It's difficult to be neutral in particular situations, but it's that type of detachment is what we need to do in order to let go of the earth experience. So yeah, there's a lot of things that spirit says, but then when you apply it to your own life, you think, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Like, how can I be neutral when millions of people are being killed, or thousands of people are being killed, or something's happening in the world that's unjust and things like that? But ideally, spirit's like, you can't let yourself get connected to that, which is hard. Yeah. And we're not perfect.
No, we're not. And we're mama bears and papa bears. If somebody goes after ours, we're very tribal. All over the world, we're very tribal in our groups. And, you see this creating wars, unfortunately, but it also creates much love where people come together and help each other and lend hands. I do feel like neutrality, sometimes we think of that we don't have any emotions, but we still want to have our emotions and have fear and have sometimes even abandonment is an emotion that you want to feel like, oh my God, they left me behind here, or whatever, because it's an expression of energy. And so energy obviously is neither good nor bad, but being aware of those emotions and being aware of that process is really helpful.
Yeah. There's an aspect of it too, and it's always a territory that I don't really like to get into, because it's controversial, but it is from the spirit side. It's taking ourselves out of our human experience and realizing, one, that we all choose our lifetime. So there are those of us who choose to be part of horrible events in history. And it's awful, it feels awful as from the human perspective to say that, oh, it's okay that they died because they chose that. It feels really weird to say that, but there is, from the spiritual perspective, I think that's where this is coming from. It's like we need to kind of think outside the box in terms of what's going on the planet. Some things are necessary, even though in the moment they might seem really horrible and terrible. But it's really sketchy territory, and I don't really like talking about it just because it hits home when it's someone who's close to you that's experienced something that's really terrible, or an injustice or whatever else, and saying, oh, they chose that. But it's often for the betterment of humanity and our own growing and growth and everything else. I've been told that people who passed from COVID, and this is getting into the sketchy territory, they're actually part of this evolution and transition. They chose to go at a particular time in order to help and continue the progress on other dimensions and with the new earth and things like that. So it's one step in their journey. Again, if you lost someone to COVID, but there is this reassurance from spirit that it's part of the process. So
Yeah.
So remaining neutral is kind of a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want, because it's almost like we're claiming to know what the bigger picture is if we think that something, we're saying, pointing fingers, saying you're wrong, that's horrible, that's unjust, because it might be for the better in some way.
It does help to witness things that way, with witnessing awareness, and to watch it that way. It is very hard to do when it's somebody that we love, because we're empathetic, we're sensitive, and we're loving, right? Most of all, we're loving. So so that's a fine one to try to get to. I've tried to use it so many times in my life, and I'm like, what the F,
And then the question is, because they also don't want us to forget that we are here to have an earth experience, so they don't want us to detach too much. So sometimes if we detach too much, they do throw in these, like, I'm gonna fall and break my leg and be in my body 150,000% because it hurts so badly. Sometimes they do that in order to ground us and make us, oh yeah, I kind of have to be here for this. So
Yeah.
I really don't know where the equilibrium is in terms of what is too much detachment and what is not enough attachment, I guess. But
it's a fine line to walk, isn't it? Yeah. Sonia says, if you're a young soul on this earth, are you the same in the veil? Does it make you less wise being a younger soul versus an old soul? And do you believe in young and old souls? Jason.
From my knowledge, there is such thing as old souls, ancient souls. I've heard them called old ones. So I really don't know what distinguishes an ancient soul from a newer soul. I don't really know how's that work, especially we're supposed to be infinite and never ending. So I think it's one of those questions we're not supposed to really understand. But I do know that just in terms of it's very human to place value on, old versus young, wise versus lesser experience. It's, saying higher vibration from the spirit's perspective. It's not a matter of being better than, or if you're lower vibration, it doesn't mean you're less than anyone else or any other energy. That's a human thing. So I guess that's what I would say about that question. There are young and old, but there isn't necessarily like being an old soul doesn't necessarily mean you're a better, wiser soul. So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I feel like we're all divine and we all have divine light. There are the ancient ones and they come in and they're at a different realm than we are. But we're coming on up. Um, and like those that decide to remain in this 3D earth, and those of us that decide to remain in this other 5D earth, right? And maybe move back and forth. Maybe that's what we're going through right now. Um, um, it's okay. They're right where they need to be. And that's probably the contract that they have for this lifetime. This is the expression they need.
Yeah, and the part of the reason why Earth and the human experience has come to be is, it's all happening at once, but again, this is something we're not supposed to understand. But there are aspects of this higher vibrational experience where you know everything. You're not limited to a physical body. Nothing's a surprise. Everything is accessible. You're always in love. You're always in light. You're always, so there's nothing really challenging. So being newer or doing the Earth experience actually from their perspective is a big deal. And one of the things about this field that we're talking about is outside of the human experience, there's no such thing as having the experience of discovery, of curiosity, of, oh my God, I discovered this great invention, or oh my God, I just learned about this new concept. Like that excitement and that feeling is something that's foreign to the rest of the universe and all other galaxies. So that's part of what we're learning here. And I'm getting huge chills talking about this.
Me too. Yeah.
Because everywhere else, it's, you can tap into the knowledge and everything is accessible and you have wisdom and you have all that. So it's like there's this, I don't want to say stagnancy because everything's always in motion, but we're doing something that there is a lot of reverence for. And I have, in sessions, I've had like beings thank me for doing what I'm doing, not as a practitioner, but as a human being, that the first couple times I felt really uncomfortable. Like, why are you thanking me? And from their perspective and other beings and vibrations and densities, like the human experience is rough and we're doing something that's like monumental in the bigger scheme of things. So it's even the lowest lows that we might be feeling, or the heaviness and the weight and the pessimism or whatever else, we're doing something that is actually really valuable in the greater picture of everything and all that is. So, yeah.
Wow, well said. That was amazing. You should put that in your book. That could be. I swear to God, I love it. I love it.
It really hit me when I learned that. That's like one of the secrets. Like, part of why we're here is just to have the experience of being curious and not knowing everything.
Yeah.
And we look at that as being a weakness, and actually it's kind of a strength in their eyes.
Yeah. There's also this dimension has these physical senses that I think kind of amaze them as well. How we smell things, how we see things. And then different species on the planet. How exciting is that? Looking at things like a fly, so interesting.
Yeah. I've heard in some form or another the Earth was supposed to be like a vacation spot that other beings would come here, because it is so beautiful. So there's also that always, in some ways, like, remember that you're on this beautiful planet, because there's a lot of places out there that's just rock.
Yeah.
Nothing much to look at.
Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting how much the energy here is different than other planets and other beings, the way that they perceive things. And I have heard also that this planet has much energy, like crystalline energy and resources that are very important to the universe as well.
Yeah, Kim has a good point. I don't think that beings know all things on all dimensions. Yeah, that's true too. And I don't know how it balances out, because I have communicated with some aspects of people's spirit teams and everything else, and they don't have access to particular knowledge. And it's a matter of, is there someone there who can answer this question for me? So I don't know. I wish I knew how that all worked, but I just know the discovery on our part is one of the reasons why you're here. So
yeah. Interesting. Thanks, Kim. So, one thing I do want to ask you about while we're talking about lava is is that we've been feeling the ancient ones on the planet coming alive. And by this, I think that it's Gaia's ancestors and Gaia's family. And I think they do kind of portray themselves as the elements. And when you walk outside now, you might feel more energy coming from the trees, more energy coming from your location, like the ley lines, the crystalline energy. It's just everything is awakening. Have you gotten like entities that'll come forward like that, like this?
I know that it everything is conscious, and so I have not communicated like the elemental type energy. I've never communicated with. I mean, I guess the closest would come. I mean, the fairy, like the client who was a fairy, would talk with the trees and would talk with the spirits and would, but it wasn't. It was second nature. But I do know there are energies and there were energies in the beginning of the planet Earth that were responsible for making an elemental. They specialized in different elements in order to create the Earth. So there were those who were responsible for creating the oceans and the water. There were those who, and I know this from Dolores's books, where people went back to lifetimes where they were this lady. She was creating or helping create the air. I found out in my QHHC session, I helped create the atmosphere of the Earth. I don't know what that means and looks like, but I think, and we've all experienced something like that in some form or another. So,
Wow, that's amazing. I can see you with air. Really? Yeah, because you're very light. You have a very lightness. No, a lightness of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that what you're saying is part of, it's not just about the Earth, that there are ancient energies coming alive. And I think we've talked about it in the past especially with Antarctica. There's a lot of things that are melting into the oceans that it actually stored in there, that is ancient knowledge and ancient vibrations and ancient energies that were put there for safekeeping until humanity was ready for it. So I don't know.
I love this about beings creating different, like the waters, the air, the ferns, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of what I'm thinking of, that I'm feeling more so now than like an entity.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if do you think that they're a group of entities, like a collective, or do you think that they're...
It seems like that they were specific to particular elements. And it just seems like like even with the veil, like that was their specialization. And I think it's hard to think about that's all you exist for, but really everywhere else, because they come in knowing what they're doing. They're aware of their past lifetimes. They are aware of other lifetimes if they've been on Earth. I always ask, if it's another being or, ET or whatever, do you remember other lifetimes? And they'll say, oh yeah, it's like, it's not unusual to remember that. So, with that said, it's like a lot of those lifetimes or existences, or you come in knowing, okay, my mission this time around is I'm going to create the air for Gaia on the Earth. You're done and you leave. And that's kind of how it goes. And they are like missions. And it's like you come in knowing that you're going to do it. And then when you're done, that's it. You go to the light. Of course, it could be millions of years in our time, but it could be a second in theirs. So
Yeah, right? Yeah, it seems like it would take forever, but thank goodness they're doing it.
yeah.
It's beautiful. Hazy Days. I love that name, Hazy Days. Good to see your smiling face, Jason. I am wondering if you have ever had a client who was an animal, like a bird or a butterfly.
I had a client who was a flower.
Oh,
It was a very short lifetime. But the interesting thing is we've all experienced, I mean, once we are in the human experience, we've pretty much experienced a lot of what we would think to be objects, but everything has something to teach. So the flower lifetime, it was about the temporary beauty, like impermanence of like beauty, to experience it in the moment but not feel any sense of loss when it's gone. So it's like that everything changes. I had a client who was a rock. That was the challenging one to figure out what was going on. It was like, are you moving? No. There's a lot of big flowers, and then I was like, is this another planet? And the person, I don't know. And then they saw the seasons going by, and like it was like fast forward, and then finally they were a rock. And it took the client kind of like stepping outside and looking down. And it's funny in those moments because our conscious mind comes in, and people kind of be like, I think I'm a rock.
wow. That's
And
cool.
that was about stillness, patience. So no matter what we experience, there is some type of lesson and learning in it, regardless of what it is. I can't imagine. I didn't really figure out how like you come into a rock and then you leave being a rock. But it didn't really matter. That wasn't the point.
Yeah.
So yeah, rock, flower, the fairy, an ant. What's interesting, the ant was super interesting.
I was just going to say, because they've got the ant hills and they're all such a community.
It's a collective like consciousness. So even when they're separated, like super far apart, they're still in communication with each other.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it would be cool to be an ant. It was a very cool lifetime.
I do too. I like my ants. We have ant hills on our grass, and I'm like, they aerate the lawn, right? So you don't have to aerate it anymore. You just let your ant hills take care of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not like 5 feet tall or anything. That would be a little frightening, but I guess we could work with that.
Cheetah.
Oh, a cheetah. What a beautiful experience.
Yeah, I think I talked about that a while ago. It was actually how I found out that shapeshifters are legitimate, because it was really confusing lifetime, and it was someone who part of the time would be human and part of the time be with cheetahs, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought it was maybe 2 different lifetimes, but there's times he'd be with a cheetah family, and then times he was in the village. And it ended up he stayed being a cheetah, and he had a cheetah wife mate or whatever, they had a little baby cheetah son, and the purpose of the lifetime was just to experience fatherhood. It was really like,
It's a Disney movie, guys.
it seriously.
It's so beautiful.
I mean, it's a cool way to. I mean, if you want to experience fatherhood, it seems like that's kind of a cool way to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But it was like it was like a family. I mean, they were so happy to have this baby together.
Yeah. 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 Ants they are fascinating, aren't they? They turn the soil for life to continue and grow. Yeah. They are. And they're also, recognize the divine feminine and that they're matriarchy, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Ginger Sky, how do you exit an incarnation as a rock? I think some of them lie around for millions of years.
That's what I wanted to know. I was like, is it's like you're not born as a rock? Yeah, it's a good question. I think my sense is like you come in, you find a rock, you're like, okay, I'll plop down here for a couple hundred years, and then when I've learned my lesson, I'll leave. Is kind of the sense.
Like a walk-in, but it's a rock-in.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Merlin, right? Hypnosis. Jesry was a sea urchin. They're all climbing in now.
I was a sea urchin. Interesting.
Sea urchins are beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you for being here. We're already an hour. God, that flew by.
Yeah.
So, so what do you have coming up, sir? Moving.
Let's see. I don't. There might be some group hypnosis coming back online. So that's in the works.
I love that.
Yeah. And some newer versions, if anyone who's here has been to them before, it's going to be more experimental things beyond past lifetimes and things. So I'm excited.
That's amazing. Love that.
Yeah.
Lorraine wants to know if you live next to a racetrack.
It's actually really warm here, and I have the window open. I usually don't, and there's people have very big engined cars here. It's kind of territory.
Yeah, we get that too. We get a lot of sirens here because I'm close to a couple of different hospitals and whatnot. So anyway, well, thank you so much, guys. I've got some really big shows this weekend. Dr. Gail Skywalking the Moon, and then I'll be with Spirit Whisperer too this weekend. So, and tomorrow with Allie at Heart and Soul Connected on the channel.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, have a great weekend, and thank you to the moderators and everybody that came to see us. Please make sure that you subscribe to Jason's channel and hit that black bell. We'll see you later.
Rock on.
Rock on.